Oh, baby. I love saying it. But we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the weekly news as far as the stock market's concerned this week. Just wanted to fill you in on a little bit. Over the weekend here, Saturday, Sunday, we'll be doing a quick weekly update of the portfolios, both the M1 Finance and the Robinhood portfolio, so be on the lookout for those. Wanted to keep the content rolling for you guys while we're still waiting on really the kick-in of earnings season. That's when the most of the content comes out, right? It's great stuff. But in the meantime, we got some good stuff for you. Weekly updates. Hope you're excited about that. So stay tuned Saturday and Sunday for some good stuff. Let's get into some of the news. Won't be too crazy for you. This actually was a last week news article, but it's worth mentioning today because it's something I brought up quite a bit. The FDA advisors have voted against booster doses for the Pfizer vaccine. And that is a for now thing, right? So one thing I've definitely, it was 16-2 against, by the way. One thing that I definitely think is worth mentioning here is kind of how things rapidly change on this. So typically here, it's how it started all along, where when we originally created these vaccines, they were strictly looking for those who are higher risk, age 65 plus, and now they've approved a booster dose for those 65 plus. So again, as we progress here, you'll just need to realize that booster doses are coming, and you'll need to take them. We've seen vaccine efficacy fall dramatically after the 8-month period. So it's inevitable that they're going to be issuing booster doses. It's when do they finally approve it? That's what matters. We'll see what that looks like, though. So, other massive news for the week, obviously the Evergrande nonsense in China, quite noteworthy, right? But here's some great news here, and it caused the stock market to rebound just slightly. They officially will make their Thursday bond payment, right? Evergrande, they're making a payment. Look, they may be $300 billion in debt, but that's okay. That's perfectly fine as long as they're making payments. This could be a huge factor in terms of the market coming up. You just need to consider that because what happens here obviously affects the global economy. The Chinese economy is pretty important, especially if you're in Chinese stocks. I think this is a great opportunity for you. Companies like Alibaba getting dragged down for no reason will see a benefit really over the long term as a result of this. Definitely, you always have to look at buying opportunities in the market when you see them. Not too high on a lot of Chinese stocks personally because of how they're forced to report. It's not necessarily quite as accurate as U.S. companies. So there may be inaccuracies in some of their reporting data. Just consider that. But I think there's a lot of great companies out there that I think are getting, unfortunately, maligned for reasons I couldn't tell you. So that's that. But big news, obviously, this week as well was going to be what the Fed is going to be doing. So look at the next week, see what the Fed is going to be doing. It would consider tapering the asset purchase plan as long as the economy continues to improve because we've got good data, right? We've got good data as far as economic improvement, which is obviously inevitable. I still see personally myself some concerns. We've been every week so far for the last little while, we've been overestimates in terms of unemployment rating, in terms of unemployment filings, I should say, which is kind of concerning for me. Obviously, we know there's a worker shortage in the entire country. No one's working. I mean, it's just a thing. It's a concern to me to see that so many people still aren't working. And I think a lot of that's because I kind of blame the government in that aspect. First, we really didn't make anyone need to work at all because we were offering them $30,000 a year in unemployment benefits. My gosh, my first job didn't pay that much. $30,000? Good grief. I mean, what are we talking about here? This is ridiculous nonsense. We're paying people over $15 an hour to sit at home and do nothing. Now they've obviously gotten rid of those benefits, but there's actually more things that they've added that are helping people get along. So they've added new disability portions that allow people to claim disability for any long-term effects from COVID, which again, it keeps people not working. And I think overall, a big thing that keeps people not working is, unfortunately, the way that the mainstream media has kind of portrayed this. And we've seen it in a lot of different studies, even from the New York Times, which have shown that over 50% of Democrats believe, or 41% of Democrats believe that if you contract COVID, you are 50+% likely to be hospitalized. And that fear-mongering, and it's the same way, really, if you see party-wide, it just goes down a little bit as you look at independent then on the Republican side. Still over 30+% on the Republican side, too. So we've got, in this country, right around 40% of the population believing that if you contract this, you are going to be 50+% likely to be hospitalized. The real number is 1 to 5, right? So I think that's definitely going to kind of stop people from the job market. And we also need to consider that Biden's vaccine mandate, which I don't think, just due to constitutionality, I don't think it'll actually go through. I don't think the Department of Labor will be able to do anything. There's just no way you can't possibly maintain that. There's no way companies can actually get that done properly. It's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. There's no way they're doing it. But some places have already instituted that you are required to be vaccinated to get a job. And unfortunately, that's going to be hurting their business in the long run, right? Because some people don't want to. We've seen a third of nurses who aren't vaccinated that are quitting because they have to get the vaccine and they don't want it. So that's going to be an issue you need to consider out long term too. So just consider, while we see some metrics in the economy look good, there's a lot of things that are still negatively pressing against it, in my opinion, that I think will boil over eventually. You need to consider it. It's more of a slow burn, and people just aren't kind of thinking about it. But that's what I got for you there. We see Facebook's tech chief exiting the role here. Mike Schroeder, that's his name. Mike Schroeder, baby. Schroeder. Not the people that will take your car and park it for you. Different. That's a chauffeur. It says Schroeder. A little bit different, I know. He'll move to a different part of the company, so he'll allow him to dedicate more time to his family and personal philanthropic efforts. So he wants a little bit less intensive job role. No worries. He will be replaced by the Reality Labs chief, Andrew Bosworth. So again, hardware, massively important, as you see, not only with everything they're trying to produce in terms of actual physical products, but now we're seeing the Facebook glasses partnership with Ray-Ban. Hardware is a big, big thing for Facebook, and they believe that they can become a hardware company as opposed to just software. So we'll see what it looks like. In bigger news for the NFL Sunday ticket ordeal, we were talking about Amazon putting in a strong bid. Well, guess what? The NFL is supposedly leaning towards Apple. Apple? My gosh. So my presumption is if this is feasible, they would include it in, and I could see Apple doing it because right now the Apple TV Plus library, it's minimal. If they could get sports on there, they could really, really make it work. Right now they really only have originals on there. If they could get NFL Sunday ticket there, it could be massive for them. It could be massive for their business and their subscriptions. I mean, that could be crazy. We'll see what that looks like. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. Personally, I'd rather go to Disney, but it is what it is, right? It is what it is. I hold both of them. I'm shareholders of all three of these companies, so whatever happens, technically I will benefit, but I think I'd rather go to Disney just personally for my viewership's sake. ESPN Plus, baby. We see big dips in the crypto market as China's supposedly saying they're going to be cracking down harder now on crypto. So, they're pretty much going to try to prevent or make it more difficult in terms of the mining aspect of it, which again, I think makes sense because from a mining standpoint, you are basically creating an infinite number of a currency that has limitless value. It's a very strange ordeal. So again, they're going to be working on that, and you see big dips in the crypto market as a whole, from Bitcoin to Ethereum, Litecoin, Binance Coin, Solana, Dogecoin down 7% even, and Cardano. They're all down. Look, I've mentioned this a lot. Crypto is going to be facing a lot of regulation in the future, so we'll see what happens in terms of price, but regulation is inevitable. People need to understand that. And then finally, we see Nike taking a massive dip today on concerns of supply chain, right? They have lowered their revenue guidance now because of the fact that, well, that's right, supply chains are issued. And they're an issue. I mean, we knew this for a while now. It's kind of been that way for a long time. We thought they were getting better, and we're back to the point where other countries have locked down, Vietnam locked down, and we're having issues with the supply chain yet again. So consider that in terms of all retailers here, but specifically clothing might get a little more heavily impacted. The benefit you have for clothing, though, is the fact that last year was such a down year for them. They've got easy comps year over year, so take that into consideration. But into the second half of this year, it'll be a little bit tougher for them as you look in the last 3 months, because that's when we started to stabilize more in terms of clothing sales. So we'll see what happens. That's what I got for you. We're going to talk about the portfolios. I'll see you tomorrow and the day after. Let's talk about the M1 Finance and the Robinhood portfolio. Hope you had a good one.